Okay, hi brothers and sisters. We're back to our final video. I know it don't matter that I turn this up. It just matters to me, I guess, that I do it. It's an internal volume, I know, but still. Anyway, I do things to feel safe, I guess. Anyway, enough of that. We're going to finish up that final study we began in Isaiah 64. It might have been 63, but it's been so long since I've looked at the videos. I don't even know where I stopped. I may actually jip you a few verses in Isaiah 65, and we're just going to move into Isaiah 66. And I'm kind of going to just, again, fly by the seat of my pants, and we're going to read, hopefully, Jeremiah 18. But I wanted to share something with you where this is going to be my final video for a while, I believe. I don't think that I have a whole lot more to share with you, especially if you're somebody that has come to understand and accept the validity of this theology that I have been showing you. I think it's something that you can pick up for yourself given enough time. I began my search in 2011. Around that time, it was a slow growth process for me. Before I come to the point where I felt led to really share. So I began my channel in 2018, sharing what the Lord had shown me, and had, little understanding of how far that was really going to take us on this channel. Because I thought I was just going to upload 4 videos, the first 4 ever, and be done with it. And show you that, the key of David was something that we could understand what it was. And if you had heard different reasonings about it, how they really didn't have any understanding of what the key of David was, and yet we could clearly know what that was. And so I said, well, after those 4, I'll be done. And then because the count was like 4, and it's like people go, you dare admit to that? Yeah, I had 4, a total of 4 people watching my videos. And that was, I thought, I always followed that idea, that thought, sorry, I'm messing with my pens here, that one mattered, that one, if it was just one other person following it, that one mattered enough to make these videos. And it was something that I felt the Lord had wanted me to do. And so it mattered to me on that count as well. And so now I finally come to this, every time I start to think I'm going to do a video, I'll hesitate, and I'm like, I don't really feel like doing it. What more can I share with you that you yourself can't truly pursue through the Holy Spirit leading you in the pathway that she wants you to be led in? And so with that understanding, I am at least going to take a break. I think minimum 2 months. It may be longer. I don't see it being any less. I just, like I said, I come to upload the videos. I really don't feel like doing it anymore. But I am going to share one final study that I think I will be moving into myself personally over the next few months, whether I ever share all of my findings with you or not. But, I came with this idea that we are the descendants of the original mothers. I have spoken on that through my videos. And one day the Lord just kept throwing this name at me, and kept throwing this name at me. And I said, well, why did you show me this name? Because we know there are no coincidences. And so I'm going to share a little bit about that. And it may be the descendancy of us all because of the meaning of her name. And the name that she kept throwing at me, leading me to kind of this understanding that she was my mother descendancy, is Shira. That's right, Shira. And so when I went in and I began to do a little bit of a study, the Lord, if we just did what we were supposed to in the beginning, we'd save ourselves so much time. If I'd have looked into that verse in Isaiah 22 where it says, but you have not looked to the Maker who fashioned it long ago. If I'd have looked at who actually fashioned it, and my thought was that I can't know who fashioned it. It was God, obviously, who fashioned it. That was my thought. But it come down to Shira, who fashioned it long ago. And so I began to dig into Shira a little bit. And this is what I've discovered. And I have a whole strip tabs pulled up that I want to get back to. So far I'm just jotting down references and sites that I've been to try to make a comprehensive understanding of what we were actually looking at so long ago with Shira. Now this is what I've discovered on Shira before we move into Isaiah 66. And that is, Shira was the maker of the upper and lower pool. Yeah, she was. And if you get looking into that, you'll discover that upper and lower is only applicable whenever it brings in Beth Haran that she made, that she built. And it specifies Shira. What's interesting about Shira is she was Ephraim's daughter. Now, I speculate that Ephraim had to be a daughter herself, not a male. Because they want to put everything male, all right? But it says he mourned the loss of his son, and after that he went in unto his wife, and then he had all these children, to which Shira is listed as one of Ephraim's daughters, okay? Whether you go with that or not, that's entirely up to you, how you want to approach this. Because we are told to test and try the spirits. And if I can't go in and study the Old Testament and validate what those spirits on the pulpit are trying to tell me, then God's a liar. I'm not allowed to try nothing. I'm not allowed to study nothing. I'm not allowed to test nothing. I'm just supposed to sit there like this dummy and listen to everything they tell me and go, hey, that's the truth. Hey, that's the truth. And end of story. God told me to go in and try and test the spirits. And that means studying the Old Testament to see what they have to say, whether that is the truth or not. And I have found that it is not the truth. They are simply repeating what their forefathers who lifted up Baal is repeating because it tickles their ears and it's like honey on their tongues. And so it is on us to go in and to validate whether that is the truth that they have been taught for so long. And I have found that it was a lie. So, and I'm sure those on this channel who has gone through the studies with me, you're beginning to question, at least in part, some of what you have been told, if you have a sense of reasoning within your spirit. Those who are at the feet of an idol will never be transformed, ever. They're waiting for their idol, a man, to come and take them away. They're too busy to be transformed by the renewing of their mind. They can't stand up and reason. They refuse to. But for the few who have watched me, this is Shira, all right? This is what it says. The meaning of Shira's name. This is what it means. Remnant. Family. And consanguinity. Am I saying that right? Or is that a Q? Did I write that down, Ruth? Which means related to someone by birth. A kinswoman. So the Lord had thrown that name up to me. It was like at least 6 times before I decided to go in and study. Because I can be quite thick-headed. Nah, yeah. And so I said, well, I'm going to go in and study Shira because the Lord has thrown her name up in front of me so much that maybe she is actually trying to tell me that this is my kinswoman. And lo and behold, I go in and I look it up, and that was my thought. A blood relative. That her name actually means kinswoman. Now you tell me that's coincidental, right? So this is what we linked to Shira when I got looking into it, okay? So I haven't done the in-depth study. I haven't made all the connections I need to. And like I said, I'll probably be using the time over the next few months that I can squander away for these studies myself to go in and try to slowly piece the story all together. Because it's interesting, because I believe somewhere along the way, Shebna relates to Shira somehow in a way that I have not been able yet to connect, but I believe the two are fully connected. Because it comes down to... No, I won't share that with you just yet, if ever. But in Isaiah 22, verse 9, I'm sorry, I've been babbling. Verse 9, ye have seen also the breaches of the city of David, that there are many, and ye gather together the waters of the lower. All right? So when you go in and you look the word lower up, it's 8481, lower, lowest, nethermost. And that's important because these two words, upper and lower, is almost always going to reference Beth Haran when you look these words up. It's not going to reference too much of anything else of interest, but this repetition of the upper and lower pool is going to come into your line of sight. And that's Beth Horon. Now, she built 3 cities, is to her credit. Now you watch. So it says, the waters of the lower pool. And ye have numbered the houses of Zion, Ephraim, the houses of God. Now, we looked at that in, I believe it was in Psalm where it says, it was Psalm 83. Let us take unto us the house of God, the houses of God. That was in Bethel. That is in the territory of Ephraim. And here we get this reference, you have numbered the houses of Jerusalem. Now, they want to say the king that's in view here in Isaiah 22 is Hezekiah. But every reference that we find in there, when we reference back specific information and details, it's going to take us right back to Solomon. And so between Solomon and Hezekiah, we see the rule of the Egyptians right down to the Assyrians, and then we see the Jews being took into captivity under the Babylonian king, and Nebuchadnezzar's dream then comes into play. All right? So we have to understand our history if we're actually going to get the answers that we're looking for. And that means that we really have to dig for them. It doesn't mean you listen to a man on the pulpit tell him what tickles his ears and is like honey on his tongue. You have to test that information for yourself. You have to go into the Old Testament and you have to dig. And when you begin to do that, you realize that the New Testament is the tag-on of the idol that keeps that idol of a man standing as your Lord and your God in your head, which is an idol, and you are never found to be bowing to an idol and a made-up God. So I had said in one of my videos, we got to get back to this, that if you violate the first commandment of the 10 commandments, you are to have no other God before you. You are an automatic violation of the other commandments, and you are. And only when you go through and you are able to piece this information, and I can explain to you how you violated all 10, with that first one being violated, so the other 9, you are in full violation of them. Full violation. There is no forgiveness. Because what does it say? In Ecclesiastes, it says, the whole purpose of a man is to keep the commandments of God. Well, how can you be upholding the commandments of God if you have built an idol and you are bowing down to those lies? You are not upholding the truth of God in the land. You are not. You have violated. It says, you are not to covet your neighbors. Well, they did. Their neighbor was their sister. And what did they do? They took all of her goods from her. They did not honor their mother. They'll say, honor your father and your mother. Well, you did not honor your mother. You tore her law system down and you built a harlot spirit foundation so you could build your own justice system, which favors a man. And you can say, oh, no, it doesn't. Yes, it does. And God says, you are to be found to be no respecter of person. And yet we see this law so heavily geared towards males, it ain't even funny. So don't tell me God isn't a respecter of person. The God that they built up, telling me that I have to bow to my husband as my head, who is a sinner, and I still got to bow to him. Yeah, submit myself to his head because my head is worthless. It's of no value. But hey, follow hubby, that sinner, bowing at the feet of a man idol, and you will never be transformed by the renewing of your mind. When they tore our house down, they forced us into his. And that was the violation of the covenant. We were never to be found in his house under his law system. That's why the Shulamite says, look not upon me because I'm black. The false light, the false sun. That's right. The false theology, religious system has shone upon me and made me black. My mother's sons were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyard, but my own vineyard. You get what she's saying there? Have I not kept? It says she will be a desolate spirit in Isaiah 54 because they are not hearkening to the spirit of her covenant. The one he marries in Isaiah 54, her name is Baal, which simply means a harlot wife willing to teach his religious lies and law system and bow to him. Instead of using the spirit of the original covenant, which was come from her mother, and her command system and her law system, to raise her children up under. It was a law of equity, fairness, and truth, and we do not have that in the land. We have women yoked under a man-made religious lie telling us that we are not equal to him and that we have to do whatever he dictates to us to do. That did not come from God. That came from man. That came from your husband, Baal, which is the idol that came straight out of Egypt. We get men like Mordecai teaching a little girl how to bow to a king because the king got mad at a woman that wouldn't bow to a drunken king and play his harlot before his friends. But that's bad, you wicked women. How dare you have a backbone? How dare you stand up and not play my harlot? We'll engineer this so it goes our way. Why do you think Mordecai was teaching this little girl how to bow to a man? You know why? Because they had murdered the mothers of wisdom. And we're told that in the language in Lamentations 4:1. There's a reason why it says, study to show yourself approved. It does not tell you to sit blindly, deaf, and just listen to that monotone spirit coming off the pulpit teaching the same crap he wants you to know. It doesn't mean that. And what did Mordecai's name mean? It means Marduk, follower of Marduk. You know what Marduk's another name for? The solar calf deity. You want to know why God remained silent in the book of Esther? That would be why. She says, long time have I held my peace. Long time have I been still and restrained myself. That's the Holy Spirit, who was restrained by this ridiculous law system of a man. And she became drunk on an admixture of doctrine, wine. And it says, the Lord will awaken as one that has been drunken on wine. That's right. Now will I go forth, I will destroy and devour. And she is the deliverer of her children. But it doesn't reason, because that idol, and those men that holds that idol up on the pulpit, keeps telling you that, and you can't be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Yeah. You want to go back under a man? You haven't learned your lesson yet? What this world has done by that ridiculous teaching? That man is the image of God, he, and he carries you in his womb all the days of old, and you can't reason it out that it's your mother that does that? And that she travailed to bring the children forth and then has no power to teach them anything because they're father's children. That takes you to the verse in Isaiah 29. You told the potter, the creator, she had no power over the clay. That's what you told her. And then none reasons out to you. God says you are without excuse not to understand my Godhead. I manifested it in my very creation for your eyes to bear witness to. That's male and female. And the female is the life giver and the creator of it all. And she is also considered your sovereign Lord and the one you were to adhere to on the law system, and you didn't. You rejected her for a harlot spirit so you could play God. And you end up yoking your sister. You end up stealing her goods. You do not follow the 10 Commandments. You follow what you want to consider the 10 Commandments. You are to have no other God before you. That is the first commandment. You violate that one, and you are an automatic violation of them all. You want to know why you're under judgment? You can't be bothered to reason the truth out. That would be why. So back to Shira. I'm sorry. So we see them taking the house of God in possession. That house of God we found was Bethel. That is in the territory of Ephraim. So the houses of God that was being torn down in Psalm 74, I believe, they were like axemen. They were like axemen, it says, welding axes. An axeman welds an axe. Cutting these trees down. And the trees that they were cutting down was in the house in the forest of Lebanon. It was these daughters. They were wiping their name completely out of existence. And they even speak to each other and go, God didn't see. Nobody could see us. Nobody can follow this. We went in, we did it all, and we buried it all. So nobody can ever find the truth. Right? And that's why God says, who can tell me what happened from beginning to end? When you can present that case, and this is the real important thing to know about Sheerah. Once we identify that we are an actual kinsman, an actual descendant of Shira, And we know that in our spirit because the Lord tells us that, and we begin to take of the upper pool. That's what we begin to take of. Once we understand that that identifies it in and of itself, the identification of us actually feeding on the waters of the upper pool, drinking of the upper pool, we actually are identifying ourselves as a kins relative of Shira, who built the upper and lower pool. When we do that, because of all that we have to go through to get to that point, all the way back in time, we've got to follow back through and trace that line. Once we understand what that all means, it means that we can actually call on the Ancient of Days, and this is what they fear the greatest, us coming to this understanding. And I kind of hit on it a little bit in one of my videos, The Queen of Glory, that there's something that they hid so deep. It terrifies them so badly. But at some point, they also forgot, right, all of this information. They got so waddled down in the crap that they told that they even began to believe it themselves, and they truly forgot the truth from the very beginning. But what they fear, or did fear, and may even fear at the end, those at the upper top, the few that may actually hold this secret yet, is that once we realize who we are in God, then we petition to the Ancient of Days to hear our case that we have placed in order, hopefully. It's a terrifying prospect, it truly is. Because the Ancient of Days is not to be taken lightly. She wields all power. She is the creator of all things. She is. But once we are able to put our proverbs in order and to understand our personal case and to petition for it to be heard, this is what they don't want us to do. They don't want you to petition for your sovereignty. They do not want you to petition for your sovereignty under the law of our Ancient of Days. And the moment that we can do that properly, put all our proverbs in order, our case in order, that we understand the controversy of Zion, we understand our own role in this whole thing and our own sin in this whole thing, and what we did do right in this whole thing, because there was those who died to keep this commandment, these commandments of our mother in play, our Ancient of Days, her law system in place. We did fight for that. We did die for that. But once we're able to understand all of that and how you were the scapegoat, how you got scapegoated and blamed for what the harlot spirit inside the nation of Israel was willing to do. And then this scepter gets cast out into the lands of the Gentiles to bear that sin as the scapegoat. Once we understand all of that guilt, and then can set how that all came to be, such as the constant accusation, the constant gnashing behind our backs, all right, that the men were perpetuating against us, men like Sennacherib. We see God sitting on the throne between the cherubims in 2 Kings 19. And she says, I've heard your accusations about me, your coming-ins and your goings. And I still link that to Shebna in some way, and I'm going to find it, hopefully. But they began to just gnash and tear away at her government system. And she says, they accuse me of things that I know not. And you'll find those, I'll give you 2 references anyway. But I've hit on it at least 5 times, maybe even 3, I'll give you. And one of the passages you'll find her saying, they make accusations against me. They'll say he. Remove that he pronoun. They were accusing her. And you know Adam accused her in the beginning. All right? So all those names, Baal, Satan, Belial, Beelzebub from the New Testament, Satir, the devil, and devil, the name devil, they'll all lead you back to the accuser, the one who accused. Well, there's only one who accused in the Bible, and that was Adam, and he accused her, the spirit of the original covenant. That's what he did. And from there it was a gnashing on her and a constant system of accusation against the woman. All right? As the men continued to construct the system that they wanted made, which was woman or the spirit bowed at his feet. All right? So then she becomes this harlot spirit. All right? Is what she becomes. But the reference you'll want to go into, and I can't remember exactly, but I'll give you the chapter. Psalm 35. She says, they make accusations against me, and I don't know what they're talking about. I believe it does so link us to Shebna. I do. You'll find it in Isaiah 69. Psalm 69. Again, she says they make accusations against me, and I don't know what they're talking about. We also get, supposedly, David and her walking together. They want to put David walking with another man. And the words that they've got David saying, it's actually the Holy One saying it. She says, you were my best friend. We walked to the house of God together, and then you turned on me. And she says that it's either in Psalm 50, and she says, oh, that I had the wings of a dove and could fly away in the wilderness. All right? It's either Psalm 50 or Psalm 55. So you're going to find in those passages this accusation that gets made against the original spirit of the original covenant, right? And she says, I don't know where they're getting their accusations from. So there was this, we know how it happens. We've witnessed it with our own eyes. How an accusation will begin against somebody, one that you don't even know whether it's true or not, and you'll believe it. You'll start to build on that. And from that, they actually build momentum to tear a person's character right down into the ground, is what they do. And that was what they were doing here. They were creating momentum to tear her down and her government system down. And she hints about that, all right? Now, back to Sheerah. So, what does it say? And ye have numbered the houses of Jerusalem. Let us have the houses of God in possession. That's in Psalm 83:12. And the houses have ye broken down to fortify the wall. We lent that to King Solomon that was doing that, all right? Ye made also a ditch between the two walls for the water of the old pool, all right? So we've got the old pool. But ye have not looked unto the maker. Now, you compare that word maker there. This is just a note I have. Compare it to creator in Ecclesiastes 12. All right. So you've got maker and you've got your creator. And in Ecclesiastes 12, we have that creator. You have forgotten the creator in the days of your youth. And the interesting thing is we get the idea of forming and fashioning something. So what they were forming and fashioning, these men of Baal and Belial, they were forming a harlot system of women that would come to believe a religious lie that this Godhead was male, 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 and that he was her head, and that she must bow down to her husband and let him rule over her, and even to the point of taking every right away from her that was God-given and actually in fairness and truth and equity. All right? So that's what this forming and shaping leads us back to. But you denied the true creator in the days of your youth, which is your mother. So if you look up those two words, if you have the capability to do that, and if not, you can go through my videos because they're there somewhere along the way. You neither had respect unto her that fashioned it long ago. Now they got him, but it's her. She fashioned it long ago. And so I was also looking at the Fuller's Soap because the Fuller's Soap video had taken in the upper pool. Now I had kept saying the lower pool in that video, but we looked at the upper pool and the importance of that upper pool and how the ones that did the washing were the women. They would come with their wool and they would wash it out in the upper pool, and it looked like it would drain into the lower pool. So we did a study on that, but that was, I believe, posted to 8th Day Donnie. And so the Fuller's Soap, these washers, the ones that do the washing are women. So I was identifying the fact that that spirit was women. So it's the spirit of judgment is the Fuller's Soap, right? The washing away of the sin out of the body. And it was the women who did that. They had the responsibility of doing that. Because your clothing is allegorical to your body, to a new body, to a clean body. Well, when they were refashioning the purpose of these pools, they had no respect to the maker who had fashioned it long ago. So when you get looking into that, you'll find out the maker was Shira. So that's in, and if you want to read, all right, I'm going to be doing all these studies myself. Isaiah 5, you can read, I have verse 26 because it linked me strongly to the verse in 2nd Ezra, okay? And I ain't got my notes there, so I'm not going to say more than that on it. But 1 Chronicles 7:22, and Ephraim their father mourned many days. I don't think it was a father, but whatever. And in 23, you read verse 23, and 24, and his daughter was Shira, who built Beth Horon, the nether, which is the lower, and upper Beth Horon, and upper means elevated place, right? The highest place of all. And she also made Uzzen Sheerah, built Uzzen Sheerah. Uzzen, I don't know if I'm saying the word right, which means listen to Shira. That's what that means. That third city she built. Uzzen or Uzzen Sheerah, and it meant listen to Shira. What did it say? You have not looked to the maker of that pool that was fashioned by her long ago. So I got to pause this.